The Kerrang level crossing tragedy just 10 weeks ago showed the horrendous consequences of a collision between a train and a truck. 11 people died and 14 were injured in that one crash alone. Recently, there's been a spate of similar collisions that could have resulted in a massive loss of life. Today, Ross Coulthart reports on just how irresponsible and reckless some drivers and pedestrians can be when crossing the tracks.
A level crossing in an Australian city. We're outside a major oil refinery where, despite numerous warnings, drivers are routinely speeding through red warning lights and bells in front of oncoming trains. This train carries dozens of massive fuel tanks. Any collision could be disastrous, and we see stupidity like this happen here time and time again. All too many Australians, it seems, are careless around trains, including some pedestrians. In June, one of the worst train disasters in Australian history. 11 train passengers died when a truck collided with their train at Kerrang in northern Victoria. And just 2 weeks ago, the third serious incident in 5 years involving the Ghan passenger train. Each incident has involved collisions with heavy vehicles, fueling rising concerns about level crossing safety.
The potential for a catastrophic accident, a very large, heavy, goods vehicle running into the side of a passenger train, you could have hundreds die, and we do not want that to occur.
As you'll see today, there's a fear the recent spate of level crossing smashes will only get worse with the growing numbers of heavy trucks on our roads.
The facts of life are that the number of trucks that are involved in railway level crossing smashes have grown dramatically in the last 10-20 years, and that trend will increase.
It's early morning at Melbourne's Southern Cross station. Locomotive drivers Stuart Keating and Daniel Seymour clock on to take hundreds of passengers on the first leg of the Overland Express to Adelaide.
Roger, Pat, on the move, mate.
We're coming along for the ride today to see for ourselves what train drivers see every day. Just minutes along the track, this car ignores the warning lights and scoots across in front of our train.
So they went straight through there?
Yep.
If we were travelling at this train's normal top speed of 115k, that car driver might now be dead. Same goes for these people strolling across the track.
As they come out of there and they'll just walk across in front of you.
There's not a great deal you could do if they tried coming through there at 100 kilometres an hour, is there?
No, it's all over pretty much.
Incidents like these, including close, hair-raising near misses, are now almost a routine part of any trip for Stuart Keating.
What's been the worst moment you've had in your time as a train driver?
I nearly ran through. Kids like that coming up is always a problem. I was driving a passenger train back from Ballarat years ago, and the booms, a school bus came across in front of me, didn't even look, didn't stop like they're supposed to, and the bus full of kids, I was doing 115 kilometres an hour, and the bus went across in front of me. The kids are looking up at you, you're sort of looking, it's worse, if you make eye contact, it makes it even worse.
When VicRail recently put a camera on just one of their suburban level crossings, there was no shortage of drivers behaving badly. 200 such breaches of the road rules were recorded every weekday at just this one crossing alone. Stuart hasn't had a level crossing smash yet, and he hopes he never has one. But in the last few years, he's lost workmates in a series of appalling crashes. In April last year, a heavy truck collided with this high-speed train at a crossing near the Victorian town of Trawalla. 2 passengers died, 30 were injured. The crossing had give way signs, but no lights, bells or boom gates. One of those who died was an off-duty train driver colleague of Stuart's.
It's pretty sobering when you're losing friends,
Yeah,
colleagues.
it is. It's really sad because all the guys that we work with are guys that I've known pretty much for 30 years, and it's just a terrible and senseless way for them to die. It's just an absolute waste, and it's something that can be avoided. I've had people go across in front of me here.
Australia has about 9,000 level crossings, and incredibly about 2/3 of those, 6,000 or so, have no active protection, warning bells, lights or boom gates at all. Most are so-called passive crossings like this one, with just a give way or stop sign.
See, look at this, there's no protection on this.
So really it's just a trust thing that people won't go through there.
It is a trust thing, yep.
The awful dilemma for train drivers is that even when crossings do have active warnings like lights or bells, some drivers still ignore them.
So that car just went straight through.
Yep. The bells would have been going.
So he's clearly gone through against the lights.
Yep. So these are the ones that we worry about.
Sadly, in the last 12 months, the carnage at level crossings has been horrific. Just a few weeks after Trawalla, a truck driver died when his heavy truck, loaded with 30 tonnes of citrus pulp, collided with this massive freight train near the Victorian town of Lismore. 700 metres of carriages were compacted by the massive forces into a 150-metre long pyramid of twisted metal. Nearly 250,000 bottles of Barossa wine en route to Europe were shattered. Aside from the tragic human cost, the total damage bill from this one truck collision alone ran to over $27 million.
It was quite awesome in terms of the damage that occurred.
David Edwards is the safety manager for Pacific National, the owner of the Lismore train.
We're concerned that there's a deteriorating behaviour of some truck drivers in the heavy transport industry, and it's an issue of people are taking risks. They're not prepared to slow down to obey the road signs at level crossings.
Australia's trucking industry spokesman, Stuart St Clair, acknowledges there's a problem.
There is always an element within any profession, Ross, of people who don't do the right thing. And we need to, as an industry, and we have worked very hard to raise that level of professionalism of all drivers.
Clearly, though, much more needs to be done to educate truck drivers and indeed all drivers about the risks at level crossings. Now, the trucking industry's been making much of a recent study that shows that up to 3/4 of all truck drivers feel no pressure to speed. But when you think about it, that figure's really quite astounding, because it suggests that up to 1/4 of all truck drivers do feel such pressures. And is that a factor in the growing number of level crossing smashes?
It suggests that a large proportion of drivers do feel pressure to speed, doesn't it?
Well, it says that there is a percentage that does feel that pressure.
Investigations found the truck driver who died in the Lismore crash was not driving in accordance with the foggy conditions that morning. The level crossing signage and sighting distances were also found to be deficient. The train driver, though, Wayne Elliott, was completely exonerated. He's never spoken about the crash before now, but it has clearly taken its toll on him and his family.
Then you get the odd flashback, noise, the headlights of the truck coming out of the fog. Going back to work, I was a bit apprehensive, but it's probably had more of an impact on my wife. Up until the accident, you know, I used to go to work, come home, everything was okay. But then after the accident, you know, she realised there's a very real chance that one day I could go to work and not come home. So, have you got end of train on your screen, Bill?
In the 10 months since he's been back on the job, Wayne's counted 58 incidents where motor vehicles have crossed in front of his oncoming train, some even driving around lowered boom barriers.